Most people think becoming wealthy means making more money. Earn six figures, get that promotion, start that side hustle. But here's what nobody tells you about the people who actually build lasting wealth. They don't focus on making more money. They focus on keeping more of what they already make. There's a spending rule that separates the wealthy from everyone else. And today we're going to break down why 95% of people violate this rule without even knowing it exists. The wealthy follow what I call the 5% spending rule. For every dollar that comes in, they spend no more than 5 cents on things that don't generate future income or appreciate in value. Everyone else does the exact opposite. They spend 95 cents of every dollar on consumption and wonder why their bank account never grows. This isn't about being cheap or living like a monk. This is about understanding the fundamental difference between spending money and investing money. Let me show you how this works in the real world. Take two people who both earn $100,000 per year. Person A follows conventional wisdom. They spend $90,000 on their lifestyle, rent, car payments, entertainment, vacations, clothes, gadgets. They save $10,000, which feels responsible. Person B follows the 5% rule. They spend only $5,000 on pure consumption and deploy $95,000 toward assets that either generate income or appreciate in value. Now, most people hear this and immediately think it's impossible. How do you live on $5,000? Here's where the magic happens. The 5% rule isn't about living like a college student forever. It's about redefining what spending actually means. When person B buys a duplex and lives in one side while renting out the other, that's not spending in the traditional sense. That's deploying capital. When they buy a reliable used car instead of leasing a luxury vehicle, they're following the rule. When they invest in learning a high-income skill instead of buying designer clothes, they're playing a completely different game. The wealthy understand that every purchase falls into one of three categories. There are appreciating assets that grow in value over time. There are income-generating assets that put money in your pocket. And there are liabilities that drain money from your pocket. Most people spend the majority of their income on liabilities and call it living. The wealthy minimize liabilities and maximize assets. But here's where it gets interesting. The 5% spending rule creates a compounding effect that most people never experience. When you consistently direct 95% of your income toward wealth-building activities, your income starts growing exponentially. That duplex generates rental income. Those stocks pay dividends. That business starts cash flowing. Your investment in education leads to higher earning potential. Within just a few years, person B's financial picture looks completely different. Their assets are generating enough passive income to cover their basic living expenses. Now they have true financial freedom. They can choose to work because they want to, not because they have to. Person A, meanwhile, is still trapped in the same cycle. Higher income leads to higher spending, which leads to the need for even higher income. The psychological barrier that stops most people from following this rule is instant gratification. We live in a culture that equates spending with success. The nice car, the expensive watch, the designer handbag. These become status symbols that we think demonstrate our worth. But the truly wealthy know that real status comes from financial independence, not from impressing people with expensive things. This brings us to one of the most dangerous myths in personal finance, the idea that you need to earn more to build wealth. This myth keeps people focused on the wrong end of the equation. They chase raises, side hustles, and get-rich-quick schemes while ignoring the massive leak in their financial bucket. You can double your income, but if you're still spending 95% on consumption, you'll just have more expensive liabilities. The 5% rule forces you to become creative about meeting your needs without traditional spending. Instead of buying expensive clothes, you might invest in a few high-quality pieces that last for years. Instead of eating out constantly, you might learn to cook healthy meals at home. Instead of financing a new car, you might buy a reliable used vehicle with cash. These aren't sacrifices. They're strategic choices that free up capital for wealth building. Let's talk about the psychology of why this rule is so hard to follow. Most people use spending as an emotional outlet. Bad day at work? Shopping therapy? Celebrating a promotion? Expensive dinner? Feeling insecure? Designer clothes? The 5% rule requires you to find other ways to meet these emotional needs. This is why wealthy people often have strong mental health practices, hobbies that don't require spending, and social circles that aren't built around consumption. The compound effect of following this rule is extraordinary. In year 1, person B might have invested $95,000. If that money generates a conservative 7% return, they've made $6,650 while they sleep. In year 2, they invest another $95,000 plus the returns from year 1. The snowball effect begins. By year 5, their investment returns might exceed their original salary. By year 10, they might have complete financial independence. Meanwhile, person A is still living paycheck to paycheck despite earning a good income. They might have some savings, but they're nowhere near financial freedom. They're still dependent on their job, still stressed about money, still trading time for dollars. The difference isn't intelligence or luck. It's understanding and applying the 5% spending rule. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. This sounds extreme. How do you maintain relationships when you're not spending money on social activities? How do you enjoy life when you're not buying things? This mindset reveals how deeply consumption culture has shaped our thinking. The wealthiest, happiest people I know spend very little money on entertainment and material possessions. They find joy in experiences that don't require spending, relationships that aren't built around consumption, and pursuits that enrich their lives without draining their wallets. The 5% rule also changes how you think about career decisions. When you're not dependent on spending to feel good about yourself, you can take career risks that others can't. You can start a business, change industries, or negotiate from a position of strength. Financial independence gives you options that high earners who spend everything don't have. By the way, if you're enjoying the video so far and want more topics like this, comment the word "more" so I know. Here's where most people get the 5% rule wrong. They think it means living in poverty while you build wealth. That's not true. The rule is about being intentional with every dollar. It's about asking yourself, will this purchase move me closer to financial independence or further away? Will this generate future income or just drain my resources? Am I buying this because I need it or because I want to feel better about myself? Wealthy also understand timing. They might follow the 5% rule strictly for the first decade of their wealth-building journey. But once their assets are generating significant passive income, they can afford to increase their consumption percentage because their income has grown dramatically. The key is establishing the foundation first, not trying to live like a millionaire before you become one. And to make this process easier, we are building the Trip to Wealth Command Center, a Google Sheets system that tracks your income, spending, investing, and net worth in one place. It acts as a strategy hub that reveals money leaks, growth opportunities, and how small changes compound. Join the early access list below. The tool will be out soon. This rule also applies to business and investment decisions. The wealthy don't just apply the 5% rule to personal spending, they apply it to every financial decision. When evaluating a business opportunity, they ask, what percentage of this investment will generate ongoing returns versus one-time consumption? When choosing between investment options, they prioritize cash flow and appreciation over speculation and gambling. The 5% spending rule reveals why lottery winners often go bankrupt. They suddenly have access to millions of dollars, but they never learn the fundamental principle of wealth preservation. They spend like consumers instead of thinking like investors. Within a few years, the money is gone because they violated the rule on a massive scale. Understanding this rule also explains why some high earners remain middle class, while some modest earners build significant wealth. It's not about how much you make. It's about what you do with what you make. A teacher who follows the 5% rule can become wealthier than a doctor who spends everything they earn. The rule becomes easier to follow when you realize that most purchases marketed as necessities are actually lifestyle inflation. The expensive car doesn't get you to work any better than a reliable used car. The designer clothes don't make you more competent at your job. The fancy restaurant doesn't provide better nutrition than a home-cooked meal. Marketing companies spend billions of dollars convincing us that we need things we don't actually need. Wealthy people are often misunderstood because they don't display their wealth through consumption. They might drive an older car, live in a modest home, and wear simple clothes. But their net worth statement tells a completely different story. Their money is working for them in investments, real estate, businesses, and other assets. They understand that true wealth is not what you can buy. It's what you own that generates income. The 5% rule also protects you from economic downturns. When you're not dependent on high consumption to maintain your lifestyle, you can weather storms that destroy others financially. Market crashes become buying opportunities instead of disasters. Job loss becomes a temporary inconvenience instead of a financial catastrophe. This principle applies at every income level. Whether you make $30,000 or $300,000 per year, the 5% rule scales with your situation. The specific dollar amounts change, but the principle remains the same. Minimize consumption, maximize asset accumulation. Most financial education focuses on investment strategies, tax optimization, and complex financial instruments. But the 5% spending rule is more powerful than any of these advanced tactics. You can have the best investment knowledge in the world, but if you're spending 95% of your income on consumption, you'll never build significant wealth. The rule also changes your relationship with work. When you're not dependent on every paycheck to maintain an expensive lifestyle, you can focus on creating value instead of just earning money. You can take time to develop skills, build relationships, and pursue opportunities that might not pay off immediately, but create long-term wealth. Here's the brutal truth that most people don't want to hear. Building wealth requires delayed gratification on a level that most people aren't willing to accept. The 5% spending rule demands that you say no to almost everything that doesn't directly contribute to your financial future. This isn't popular advice in a culture built on instant gratification, but it's the reality of how wealth actually gets built. The good news is that following this rule gets easier over time. In the beginning, it feels like deprivation. But as your assets start generating income, you realize that you're not giving up anything important. You're trading temporary pleasure for permanent financial security. The wealthy understand that true luxury is not having to work for money, because money is working for you. The 5% spending rule isn't just about money. It's about freedom, security, and options. It's about creating a life where you don't have to trade time for dollars forever. It's about building something that lasts beyond your ability to work. Most importantly, it's about understanding that wealth isn't about what you can afford to buy today. It's about what you choose not to buy so you can afford anything tomorrow. The path to financial independence isn't complicated, but it isn't easy either. The 5% spending rule provides a clear framework for making the right financial decisions consistently over time. It eliminates the complexity and focuses on the fundamental principle that determines whether you build wealth or remain trapped in the consumption cycle. Remember, every wealthy person started somewhere. They made a decision to prioritize their future over their present desires. They understood that the pain of discipline weighs less than the pain of regret. The 5% spending rule is your roadmap to joining their ranks, but only if you're willing to follow it consistently, regardless of how it feels in the moment. The choice is yours. Spend like everyone else and get the same results everyone else gets, or follow the 5% rule and build the financial independence that most people only dream about. The rule itself is simple, but implementing it will challenge everything you think you know about money, success, and what it means to live a good life. And there you have it. If you found value today, I highly recommend watching my next video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Also, feel free to leave your comment below, especially if this video made you think differently. I appreciate your support more than you know. Until next time, stay consistent, stay patient, and stay winning. See you in the next one, Money Magician.